2 months after I buried my wife, her parents walked into the lawyer's office, dressed in black faces, tight with fake grief. When the will was ready, they didn't even blink. They turned to me and said, "That inheritance money, it was our daughter's. We expect you to hand it over." I thought I was grieving the loss of the love of my life, but it turns out, she died with secrets I was never supposed to find. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. My name is Nathan Reed, and 2 months ago, I held my wife's hand as she took her last breath. Her name was Claire. We'd been married for 6 years. No kids, just us, a little house outside Denver, and a life built on trust, laughter, and long Sunday drives. Or so I thought. Cancer took her fast, aggressive, unforgiving. One moment we were planning a spring vacation to Oregon. The next week, we're planning a funeral. She was 34, I was 36, and I was broke. The days after she passed were a blur. Funeral arrangements, phone calls, casseroles, from people I barely knew. But the worst part wasn't the silence in the house. It was the weight of not knowing what to do next. You don't plan for this at our age. We didn't expect to need wills or lawyers or bank account transfers. But Claire, meticulous as always, had made sure it was handled. She'd met with an attorney 2 months before she passed. Told me she wanted to make sure things were simple. "No drama," she said, weakly smiling from the hospital bed. "You just take care of yourself, okay?" I promised her I would. I didn't know how much I was about to break that promise. The will reading was held in a small office downtown. A quiet room, beige carpet, cheap coffee in the corner. Claire's parents arrived exactly 5 minutes late. Her father, stern and stiff. Her mother, tight-lipped eyes, rimmed red. They barely looked at me. We hadn't been close, especially since Claire got sick. They visited once. Only once. After that, there were cold calls, distance, and blame. They never said it out loud, but I could feel it. They thought her illness was my fault, that I hadn't caught it early enough, that I hadn't done enough. The lawyer began to read. Claire had left everything to me. The house, the joint savings, the life insurance policy, everything, without contest. It wasn't much, but it was what we had. As the lawyer closed the file, her mother leaned forward. "That money was our daughter's." I looked up, confused. She continued, voice colder now. "We expect you to return it. It's only right. She would have wanted her family to have it." Her father added, "You were only married a few years. That money came from her life, not yours." I blinked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Claire and I built that life together," I said quietly. She made it very clear in the Well, she wasn't thinking clearly. Her mother snapped. "She was drugged. Sick. You manipulated her into signing that." The lawyer interrupted. "That's not true. She came to me on her own. She was of sound mind. I can confirm that." Her parents stood, just like that. No tears, no mourning, only entitlement. "She was our daughter, not yours," her father said. "You'll hear from our attorney." And then they left. No goodbye, no condolences, just a threat. I sat in that office long after they were gone. Numb, not because of what they said, but because something in their reaction didn't feel like grief. It felt like greed, and, deep down, I had this terrible feeling that this wasn't the last time I'd hear from them, because Claire's death wasn't the end of something, it was just the beginning. 2 days after the will reading, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Just a typed message on plain paper. "We will not let you profit off our daughter's death. Return what isn't yours." Final warning, no signature, no contact number. I stared at it for a long time. The words weren't grief. They were a threat, like I'd stolen something they were desperate to get back. But the truth was, I didn't have anything more than Claire's savings, her old car, the house we shared, and a life insurance payout she'd arranged entirely on her own. I wasn't living lavishly. I hadn't touched the money. Honestly, I hadn't even left the house much since the funeral. Still, their obsession with that inheritance haunted me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in Claire's old reading chair, staring at the small wooden desk in the corner of the room. She used to sit there every morning with her tea, answering emails or journaling in silence. It was her little sanctuary. For weeks after she passed, I hadn't touched it, but something made me get up. Maybe it was the letter. Maybe it was the look her mother gave me in the lawyer's office, like I was a trespasser in my own marriage. I opened the desktop bills, notebooks, a worn-out Kindle, nothing strange, until I noticed the bottom drawer. It was locked. Claire never locked anything. We never kept secrets. But this drawer, this one had a tiny silver keyhole I had never seen before. Searched every drawer, every cup, every tray, nothing. Then I remembered. She had a locket, a small silver one she never took off, even in the hospital. I hadn't looked at it since she died. It was still in the box of her personal items. I found it, hands shaking slightly, and popped it open. Inside was a tiny folded key. I stared at it for a long time. Why would Claire hide a key in her locket? What was in that drawer she didn't want anyone to see? I unlocked it. Inside was a black envelope, thick, heavy on the front. In Claire's handwriting were 5 words, "If anything happens to me." My heart skipped. I opened it slowly. Inside was a letter. No date, no greeting, just raw truth. "Nathan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And that breaks my heart, but I need you to know something, because I never had the courage to say it out loud. My parents, they aren't who you think they are. They cut me off when I married you, told me I was throwing away my life. I didn't tell you, because I didn't want you to feel responsible. But the truth is, they only came back into my life when they found out I was sick. And they weren't here out of love. They wanted control. They pressured me to change my will. Said they deserved something for raising me. Said you'd waste everything." I refused. I signed the papers in secret. "They are going to come for you. For the money, for anything they can get. And they will. Lie, they've done it before. I'm so sorry. I love you. I always will." Claire, I read that letter 3 times before I could breathe. Everything clicked. The cold stares. The fake tears. The legal threats. They didn't want justice. They wanted ownership. Ownership of the life Claire and I built. And now, I had something they didn't know existed. Proof. But I also knew, if they were willing to lie and threaten over money, they wouldn't stop now. This was just the beginning of something far more dangerous. The morning after I read Claire's letter, I stood in our kitchen with her words echoing in my head. "They will come for you," she had known. She'd seen it coming. And now, the letter in that black envelope was more than just a warning. It was evidence, written proof, that her parents had tried to manipulate her. That their claim to the inheritance wasn't just wrong, it was built on lies. But as much comfort as that brought, it also made something else painfully clear. I wasn't dealing with grieving parents anymore. I was dealing with predators. I scanned the letter, made a copy, and sealed the original in a fireproof safe. Then I went to Claire's lawyer and handed him a copy, asking if it held any legal weight. He read it slowly, then looked up at me. "It's not a formal document, but in context, yes, it could protect you if they try to sue." I nodded. She wrote it by hand, locked it away. The lawyer tapped the paper. "This changes everything." 2 days later, Claire's parents made their next move. I got a knock at the door just after 9 a.m. It was a process server, a thick envelope, a civil suit. They were suing me for unjust enrichment. The claim that Claire had been coerced into writing the will under emotional duress, and that I had manipulated her during her illness to secure financial gain. Of something no lawsuit could ever touch. If you stayed with me until now, thank you. This story isn't just about inheritance or legal fights, it's about love that plans ahead, about protecting someone, even when you're not here to hold them. So, if you're watching this and thinking about the people you love, make sure they know. Make sure their voice is heard, even when they're gone. Because truth doesn't die with the person. It lives in those braves enough to carry it forward. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more. And drop a comment below what would you have done in my shoes. And don't forget, write where you're watching from. I read every single one. Stay safe, stay grounded, and remember the people we love never leave us empty. They leave us with a story. In short, they were accusing me of tricking my dying wife into giving me everything. I stood in my hallway holding that envelope, hands shaking, rage, disbelief, grief all over again. Then the phone rang. Claire's mother, her voice was as cold as the letter. You have a choice, she said. Settle now. Return the inheritance, or this goes public. We know things about you. About your marriage. You don't want people to start digging. I didn't answer, she continued calmly. We raised her, you just married her. Then she hung up. I paced the house for hours after that. I replayed every memory of Claire's wedding. Our vacations, her laugh echoing down the hall. They were trying to take all of it, repaint it like it never happened. Like I didn't belong in her story. But the thing about grief is once it breaks you open, there's not much left to fear. I opened the safe, pulled out Claire's original letter, and sat down at her desk. Again, then I found something I hadn't noticed before. Taped to the underside of the desk drawer was a flash drive. No label. I plugged it into my laptop. Dozens of files, audio recordings, Claire's voice, clear and steady. I clicked play. This is Claire Reed. I'm recording this for my own protection. I'm of sound mind. I've been advised of my rights. I'm choosing to leave my estate to my husband, Nathan, because he has taken care of me physically, emotionally, and financially through this illness. There were more. Different days, different clothes, different moods. In one, she's crying softly. They tried to make me feel like a child. Like I couldn't think for myself. But I know who I married. I know what love looks like. And it's not manipulation. It's not control. It's not threats disguised as concern. My throat tightened. I had never heard these recordings before. She had been fighting for me even when I wasn't in the room. Fighting while she was dying. The next day, I contacted my lawyer. We sent copies of the recordings to the court as part of my response to the civil suit. Claire's words, her own voice cut through every lie they'd written in their affidavit. And when I sent a message to her parents' attorney with the following words, she spoke for herself, and she chose me. The silence was deafening. But I knew it wasn't over. People like them didn't stop, they just got quieter, more careful. Which meant I had to be ready, because I wasn't just protecting Claire's memory anymore, I was protecting her voice, and I was about to find out how far her parents were really willing to go. To silence it, after the recordings were submitted to the court, things went quiet, too quiet. Claire's parents didn't respond. Their lawyer didn't follow up. The judge set a hearing date for 3 weeks out, but until then, nothing. No new letters, no phone calls, no knocks at the door. At first, I thought maybe they were backing off. Maybe they had finally realized they'd lost, but I should have known better. People like them don't accept loss, they rewrite it. 1 week before the hearing, I got a call from the bank. They had received a formal request from a third party parents to freeze the joint account Claire and I had shared. Their claim that the account had been opened under false pretenses and that I had taken advantage of a terminally ill woman for financial gain. The bank hadn't acted yet, they were calling me, as a courtesy. I thanked them, hung up, and sat down. This wasn't just legal, they were trying to choke me out. Financially, emotionally, legally. I checked my other accounts. My name was on all of them, but Claire had helped manage our finances. She handled the budgeting apps, the spreadsheets, all the little details. And that's when I remembered her email account. I hadn't touched it since she died. It felt wrong private, but now I needed to know what else she had left behind. I logged in. The password was the name of our first dog, Simple. Classic Claire. The inbox was full of old newsletters, hospital reminders, even her fritten grocery lists. But tucked inside a folder labeled for Nathan, I found something that stopped me cold. A timeline. Claire had written out a detailed journal dates events. Conversations documenting everything that had happened with her parents in the final months of her life. From the day they reappeared after her diagnosis, to the pressure they started putting on her to rethink her marriage, to the exact dates they tried to get her to sign new legal documents. She even included transcripts of their phone calls, some of them word-for-word. Claire had recorded everything she knew. She knew they would try to spin the story, to erase me, to paint her as helpless and themselves as victims. She wasn't just protecting me with that letter or the recordings. She was building a wall of truth around me. I sent everything to my lawyer, and then I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I asked to meet Claire's parents. We met in a sterile conference room at the courthouse. The day before the hearing, they came in with smug smiles, dressed like they were attending a charity event, not a legal dispute over their daughter's final wishes. I sat across from them, calm, centered. I slid a folder across the table. I thought you might want to see what Claire really thought of all this, I said. Her father opened it first. He read the top page, her timeline, and then his face tightened. Her mother looked confused, then alarmed. I leaned forward. You're going to lose tomorrow. Not because of me, but because Claire spoke for herself. Over and over again, her father's jaw clenched. She was sick. You manipulated her. No, I said flatly. You did, and she documented every second of it. Her mother blinked fast, her voice cracking. We were just trying to protect her from what? From the man she chose? From the life she built without your permission. They didn't respond. I stood to leave. Then added one last thing. I don't need your apology. I don't even need your respect. I have the truth, and now, so does the court. As I walked out, I didn't look back. That night, I sat on the porch, listening to an old voicemail from Claire. Her voice, soft, warm. If you're hearing this, I'm probably late again. I'm sorry, I love you, always. Tomorrow, the court would hear that voice too, and once they did, there would be no more silence, there would be justice. The courtroom was quiet, not tense, not hostile, just quiet. Claire's parents sat across from me, flanked by their attorney, faces tight, eyes narrowed. Like they still believed they were the ones who deserved to win. That the world owed them something simply because they had lost their daughter, but they had forgotten something. Claire wasn't just their daughter, she had been my wife. She had made choices. Real ones, adult ones, legal ones. And she had left behind more than memories. She'd left evidence. The judge entered and sat with the kind of presence that demanded silence. Papers shuffled. A gavel tapped once. Then it began. My lawyer opened. With the recordings, Claire's voice echoed through the speakers, clear, firm, composed. I am of sound mind and body. I choose to leave my estate to my husband because he has been my partner in every way. Her parents didn't look up, not once. Then came the journal. The timeline. The full documentation Claire had written in her final weeks, dozens of pages. Meticulously laid out. Phone call transcripts. Email copies. Even screenshots of texts where her mother had demanded she stop being so emotional and think about the family legacy. The courtroom felt colder with each revelation. Then, my lawyer rested our case. Claire's parents' attorney tried to argue manipulation, emotional confusion, that Claire had been under psychological pressure in her final weeks, but the judge raised a hand. I've heard enough. He turned to Claire's parents. Let me be clear, he said. Your daughter made her decisions, with clarity, legal counsel, and documentation. There is no ambiguity here. He looked at me. Nathan Reed, you are the lawful beneficiary of Claire Reed's estate. This court dismisses the civil claim in its entirety. Double quotes gavel. Just like that, it was over. But it didn't feel like a victory because Claire was still gone. And no court decision could bring her back. As her parents rose and walked out stone-faced, defeated, didn't feel triumph. I felt peace, not the kind you shout about. The kind that sits deep in your chest and lets you breathe again. Outside the courthouse, it started to rain. The kind of gentle summer rain Claire used to love, where she'd open the windows, just to smell the air. I stood there for a long time, letting it soak through my jacket. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out the locket she used to wear. The one that held the key to her drawer. The drawer that changed everything. I opened it and whispered, "Thank you," because Claire had done what so many people can't. She'd planned for the truth to survive her. In the weeks that followed, I made some changes. I sold the house not out of pain, but out of purpose. The walls held too many memories I wasn't ready to keep walking through. I took the insurance money and started a scholarship fund in Claire's name for young women pursuing journalism and public advocacy. Just like she had before cancer. Changed the path, and I made sure her voice lived on. I turned her recordings, her writing, her fight, into a resource for others facing similar legal battles. Quiet battles where grief and greed collide, and love is put on trial. One day, months later, I got a letter, no return address. Inside, just a single line, handwritten. "She really did love you." It wasn't signed, but I knew the handwriting. Her mother. Maybe guilt finally caught up with her. Maybe the silence got too loud. I didn't reply. Some things don't need to be reopened. Some chapters stay closed, but one thing was now unshakably clear. Claire didn't just love me, she chose me, and in the end, she didn't leave me empty. She left me full of truth, of strength,